So good morning to those who joined us from the East Coast. Good afternoon to all Europeans and good evening to those based in Asia and the one participants we have even from Australia. Hello everyone and a warm welcome to today's webinar on winning in the new shopper ecosystem. Great to see that we have nearly 100 participants from all over the world joining today. My name is Philipp Boxberger. I am managing partner at Globalpraxis for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and your host today. Thank you for taking time out and being here today with us. Before I start introducing our today's speaker, let me briefly mention some housekeeping rules. This webinar will be recorded, edited, and shared with you within the next week. As there will be live polling during the webinar, we would appreciate your active participation. And after the 20 minutes presentation, there will be a moderated Q&A session by Philippe Marmara. He is senior partner at Globalpraxis and former president of Coca-Cola Italy and Alpine. So if you have any question, just pop them in the enabled Q&A function you find at the bottom center of your screen. And please don't use the chat function. Now, if you're too shy or you just don't have a question at all, please still have a look at these questions and like and rate them. Now it's time to introduce you our speaker of today. Dr. Georg Krenzel is a senior partner at Globalpraxis and former executive chairman of the Retail Factory. Based on his recent publication with the title Strategic Shopper Marketing, as you see on the screen, we developed today's webinar on winning in the new shopper ecosystem. Georg will talk about 3 strategic growth challenges companies need to manage for future success. First, the shopper quest for seamless convenience and how to deliver augmented proximity. Second, the challenge of last yard service. And third, the strategic threat of the new shopper ecosystem rules. Georg, the stage is yours. It's my pleasure to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Philip, for the nice introduction, and welcome to all the participants to this webinar. As Philip said, it is based on the book, and the book at the end is in fact the result of more than 20 years of experience across all the continents in almost 150 countries. And mainly it comes from the FMCG industry, the retail industry, and the services industry. The idea here in this webinar is a little bit talk about the big challenges we see that are already here and that will become even stronger in the future. When we talk about the shopper ecosystem, in simple terms, what we're talking about is the entirety of touch points and players delivering these touch points that are surrounding the shopper buying environment. And what we're seeing is that this shopper environment, this ecosystem as we call it, is really changing at an accelerating pace. So I will present for about 20 minutes, more or less. And as Philip said, we're going to have 3 polls. And the answers, we're going to show them very shortly, very quickly. But they will then go into the Q&A that we're going to have with Philip Marmara, my colleague and also a senior partner at Globalpraxis. So let's get started. So as a starting point, sales is a key value function and really is the way to generate value for companies. And here you will all know Kotler, who said marketing is the most important department or function, or Drucker saying innovation. But at the end, what makes brings value to a company is sales, is continuous sales over time at a profitable sale. And this has driven in the academic world new disciplines like channel marketing, like trade marketing, like shopper marketing, etc. And what we are seeing is that selling and how to generate sales is changing. That means that, in fact, at the end, the art of selling is changing. And you all know this. So we have new channels that are coming and showing, like e-commerce, e-tail. We have all the food deliveries, the Globos, the Meow, the Deliveroo, etc. We have new convenience formats developing, new proximity channels. We have vending being very important in some countries. And that means that, in fact, selling is becoming more and more fragmented, is becoming more and more complex. And in this new world, which is also a lot driven by technical development, there are clear winners and losers. And just to give an example that you all know, for instance, Apple reached a valuation during the COVID crisis of $2 trillion, the highest ever. And also companies like Amazon are soaring. And this means for many established companies in this new fragmented world where the art of selling is changing, they need to start looking for pockets of growth. They need to identify these pockets and try to find ways how to exploit these pockets to render additional growth. And in this new world that is becoming more fragmented, more complex, availability really becomes a key challenge. Just to support that with a few numbers, if we are looking just 10 years ago, the average shopper or consumer, 80% of them, they had 3 or less touch points from understanding that there was a need to buying the products. Today, more than 70% of shoppers have 4, 5, and more touch points. So selling has really become more complex. And what has become key, as it is becoming more complex, more fragmented, is to ensure availability. And that means that what becomes key is what we call linking the route to purchase and the route to market. The route to purchase can be summarized very simply as how you bring the shopper to the product or the service. Which are the touch points, which are the activation touch points. And on the other side, you need to make sure that the product and service is available where the shopper is. So it means it needs to be linked at the point of purchase. And this means that marketing in itself is changing. So over the last decade, it has been a lot of talking that you need to integrate sales and marketing, like trade marketing, channel, shopper marketing 1.0, etc. But now delivery and supply chain has become much more important. And I think this has really been emphasized during the COVID crisis. Like if you take the UK during this time, e-commerce and delivery has been up 50% of sales, now reaching 30% of total retail value. And the same goes for countries like France or all over the world, in fact. And you see cooperations between online sellers and brick and mortar sellers like Ocado and Marks and Spencer. And with this cooperation, for instance, Ocado was able to increase their sales with more than 50% and the value of their baskets with more than 30%. So delivery now is becoming really a direct touch point with the consumer and the shopper. And this makes that supply chain, in fact, becomes an integral part of marketing. And from a theoretical point of view, which important ramifications how we are organizing our companies, it means that the classical value chain developed by Porter is really put upside down. So what used to be upstream activities, meaning supply chain, warehousing, etc., supporting the important downstream activities where value was developed, meaning marketing, sales, customer service. Now the last touch point very often is in fact the delivery, and means that the upstream becomes downstream, becomes an integral part of marketing. And one extremely important driver of this is what we call convenience. And we looked into these numbers just to support it. And we looked into the numbers of the National Retail Federation of the US. And And researching that, it showed that 83, and this is very, very new data, 83% of shoppers said that this is really important, convenience. And here comes the very important point. 97% of the shoppers asked said they had been abandoning sales or purchase because it was not convenient enough. And the interesting thing with convenience, which is in the meaning is simple, meaning making things simple. But the meaning in business has been changing over the decades. So it started off in supermarkets in the 20s, that you were able to get your products yourself, go to the shelves, etc. It then developed into the products itself, with women going into becoming part of the workforce, so having simple products for pre-cooking, pre-processed food, and now has developed into something that is about channels, and mainly proximity channels, that it's easy to buy, so interfering with your view, your path, home or to work, etc. And now this is even developing more, so it becomes more from where you're buying to how you are buying. So examples are check-in into stores. You're not checking out anymore, you're checking in and taking the goods with you. You have mobile interaction, what's called beyond the package during your purchase. You have voice ordering, etc. And important players are really developing this. So for instance, IKEA with city stores and interactive on their virtual reality for buying kitchens, for instance, you can test at home. You go to the store, you get inside, and you don't need to go to a big place outside. You can go in the city. Or you have retailers that are offering menus, so you don't go to look at categories for what you're going to cook, but they offer you finished menus that are often are developed by good chefs. So you just click the menu for how many people, and you get it home. Or insurance, for instance, the Wiener Städtische in Austria, where you have, when you're buying a car, you have two touch points. You select the car and you pick up the car. The other things, the pain points are done electronically, or for instance, registering the car is done physically by the insurer. And here it is key to understand the job to be done, to really understand how to develop the convenience. And this also drives that your sales force gets a different role. And here we looked into our data in the company, because and looked at the projects we have done on Salesforce, and how customers, clients, outlets, how they see the value added coming from the Salesforce. And here, mind you, it's the same activities. And the evaluation over the last few years has been down 30 to 50% in average, meaning the customers see what is done is bringing less value. And why is it? Because very often with many clients, the Salesforce is organized in this very classical way of an army, focus on selling into channels, selling into customers, and very driven by efficiency-driven KPIs, tailoristic KPIs, how many visits, etc. And now what customers and clients are looking for is engagement, meaning help for them to sell out, to reach their customers, their shoppers. And it also means that this can change. So this means that you need a dynamic deployment that goes further than a clear deployment just by channels and sub-channels that becomes finer and finer. Now it becomes dynamic depending on the region, the season, competitor actions, customer needs, etc. And companies that are already starting to do that are, for instance, in the insurance industries, Allianz, that are redefining their agent network, or Heineken, that are using dynamic deployment to become more and more effective. Coke is doing this in different countries. And this obviously has implications on the internal structure and capabilities. And at this point, we would like to launch our first poll. And the poll, I will read it out to you, is: to what extent are my, or yours obviously, commercial operations fit for the new channel and sales environment, what we just discussed? And here the possibilities are from 100% that totally in line, or 0%, I have not started looking into this. So we'll see if we have any first results, and the results we then gonna give to Philippe to be able to put that into the Q&A. So continuing. Within this new, let's say, augmented convenience reality, delivery is becoming a key point. And this is really supported, and taking the example here of Amazon Prime, which is a flat rate delivery. Amazon Prime has 150 million customers worldwide. This is the biggest loyalty scheme in the world. Also, other players like that have been traditionally brick and mortar, like Walmart in the US, they are reaching 40% of the US population with delivery. And what is happening as this becomes a new competitive sphere, it goes that companies and players are looking how to go beyond the doorstep, how really to create value. And this is called a last yard service. Last yard service versus last mile is really that you present and deliver and give the product to the consumer and the shopper where it creates value to him. And many companies, and this is a part that is really in beta mode. To give you some examples, Amazon and Walmart, again, like in-home delivery. So it's not only that you need to wait on the doorstep with a slot, it is they go into your house, they put it in the fridge, etc. You have clothing marketplaces like Zalando, which gives a possibility to return clothes without any problem. So you can try it at home. Try it out at home, etc. Or again, retailers offering menus like Farm Drop in the UK. So you just click for the menu, they select the brand, what you need for this menu, they deliver it to your home, they deliver it into your home, and put it on your desk. So this is last yard that is becoming more competitively important to drive preference. And one challenge here is obviously who will pay for this? I mean, these are very local, high frequency, low drop size, return supply chains. And research shows, has been done research on that, the willingness of shoppers to pay. And it's extremely low. Some research suggests is about, well, max €3. And that means, as this is becoming more the competitive sphere, it means who is going to pay it? It's going to be retailers, it's going to be the producer, will it be included in trade terms, etc. And just to give you an idea, if you take the sales costs, in average, 50 to 70% are already supply chain costs. And out of these, 50% are last mile. And this is a cost is increasing. The weight is increasing. And again, this is a very experimental field, because the challenge is, how do I keep a high service? How do I develop into last yard service? And how do I keep my costs under control? And here, ideas or initiatives are partnership programs like Amazon introduced in 2013. It is crowd service over digital platforms like Coke has introduced in some parts, like with Moa Coke in Vietnam. You have Heinz that are doing cooperations with other producers. A lot of initiatives are going into technical solutions like drones, semi-automatic vehicles. Picking and warehousing is an important issue, like in-store picking, dark stores, and obviously also robotization. For instance, Ocado in the UK, they have more than 1 million calculations per second to make sure that the different robots don't get in their own way. And this means that trying to achieve this with the service and the cost, companies are really looking into collaborative route to markets. That means route sharing, joint venture, crowd systems, players, corporations, like the before mentioned Ocado and Marks and Spencer. And here we would like to launch our second poll for this evening, and is to what extent is my current distribution network valid for the last mile yard challenge? And here we put both last mile and yard, because last yard is really a development of the last mile. And again, here the possibility of 0% that we are not ready, we are not looking into that, and up to 100% that we're having this under control, we have different solutions, we're working on that. And again, this will go into the Q&A with Philip Marmara then at the end of the presentation. So, as this is developing with the new convenience, last yard service, etc., this means that in fact that there is a new ecosystem developing, and this has several implications. And one really key implication is what I would like to call the second wave of brand assault. Brand assault, the first wave, in fact, of brand assault is our retail brands. So when retailers in their own right became marketeers, and now retail brands in some countries in Europe has a market value of more than 30%. So really, really important. And what is happening now is that this second wave of brand assault, in fact, is prescriptive, is a new way of activating brands. And you have here important gatekeepers. We could call them marketing gatekeepers that in fact are making the brand choice on behalf of shoppers and consumers. So examples clearly are Google search or so searches, rankings. You have that on most platforms, Zalando, Amazon, Google, etc. Or it's embedded in the services where the brand becomes secondary, like retailers offering menus to shoppers and consumers. So when you decide on the menu, that is your primary decision and not the brand. So the brand becomes secondary and someone else is deciding on the brand for you. Or, for instance, as an example, during the COVID and in France, where click and collect obviously became very important, what Carrefour did was in fact pushing in their own products in the shopping baskets. And you also have voice ordering or voice lists like Alexa, etc. And here there has been some research done on this with the voice ordering, and the research has been done on the category of batteries. And when people are searching for batteries, searching for a category on Alexa, more than 80% of the cases, what is proposed by Alexa are then Amazon basic products. So that means due to the convenience, voice ordering, you're giving the selection to someone else in your ecosystem, which is not the brand owner. And that means that the ecosystem shapers, the ones controlling these ecosystems, are really becoming key and are developing into important gatekeepers. These ecosystems are extremely attractive to shoppers and consumers, and that makes players force them to enter and makes them want to enter. And some examples of these new ecosystems are, for instance, the travel industry, booking.com, which on one side has been a big help for smaller hotels, etc. But at the same time, booking.com takes a big part of the pie. Another one are marketplaces for clothes, Zalando. We have delivery services in South America. We have Rappi, Globo in Spain that are expanding from just being a food delivery to also deliver other products. So focusing on the shopper and the needs of the shopper. You have in payment services, you have Klarna, which is a big fintech, which just has received a big investment and is the highest value fintech in Europe. And they make it easier for companies to be paid, but they also had started with a sort of a credit system, so buy now, pay later. And these ecosystem shapers, what they do is they decide on the members. So who can enter, who cannot enter. They decide on the rules. So for instance, to get a good ranking, you need to put ads in Google or in Amazon, or you need to do specific promotions for your brands on Zalando. They decide on the compensation and the taxes within the system. So for instance, Google Play or Apple Store, which are taking 30%. And this is now a big discussion about that they are controlling the market domination. But you also have like Klarna, which is taking 3 to 4% of the value in the buy now, pay later feature. And the big challenge here is for companies, well, to understand of which ecosystem am I a part? What are my possibility? On which ecosystem do I need to be a part? What is my role within the ecosystem? And also, do I need to create my own ecosystem? And how can I shape that? How can I build it that it becomes relevant to consumers and shoppers? And who are the other players that I need to invite? And we see that other players are starting to do this. So you have Allianz Insurances that are developing their agent or redefining their agent network, including them into the digital strategies, having new collaborators entering to give a better service to the consumers and shoppers, or Coca-Cola with their outlets, inviting and helping these outlets to become more successful with a sort of category management within the outlets. One leader is FEMSA with their commercial digital platform to support sales and outlets in South America. And here we are coming to the third pole, which is, to what extent are your priorities? And we talk about priorities here. It can be strategic planning, it can be your budget, it can be your commercial structure. In what sense are they reflecting the new shopper reality? And again, from 0% not at all to 100%, we have this fully under control, or in between to some extent, we are starting to take this into account. So here now, I would then like to end with a short, with the challenges. So the first one on augmented proximity, which this new competitive space. And here really the challenge for companies is, how do I deliver this new convenience? Internally, what are the implications on my structure, my processes, and externally, with whom do I need to collaborate? Secondly, as we are entering into last yard thinking, at least, how to create value, and breaking up this classical role sort of the producer producing, the retailer distributing, the shopper going to the shop and compiling his basket. This is now done by retailers and producers. What does that mean? What are the implications on my route to market, on my collaborative route to market? With whom do I need to work? And on my own supply chain capabilities. Do I need to become an expert and have my own supply chain tower knowledge? Do I need to become almost like a 4PL? And thirdly, and strategically, within which are the ecosystems where I am a part, where I need to be a part? What needs to be my role in these ecosystems? And how do I need to shape an ecosystem for my shoppers and consumers to really engage them and stay relevant? So thank you, and I would give the word back to Philippe for the Q&A.
Thank you, Georg, and thank you very much for the short summary of a very big book. So it probably took you quite an effort to make it in 20 minutes, but thank you very much. Let me just comment a bit on the polls. What came loud and clear from the three questions is that we are in an in-between situation today. And I think everything you've described today during your presentation is something that is in the mind of the managers already. but because of the health crisis, the COVID, things have accelerated a lot. And what people realize today is they are not really ready now. For example, on the sales, on the question on the sales organization, obviously managers feels that their sales organization is not yet fit for the changes, for the new challenge, and is probably not dynamic enough. Regarding the distribution network, it's a bit surprising. It's a 50-50. 50% believe that their distribution network is fit for the new challenges, especially for the last yard delivery, which is to me strange, but we would probably have to look at that at some point. Other people from the audience believe that they are not ready at all. And finally, in terms of priorities, and remember that in business, you put your money when your priority are. So probably a better question would have been, is your budget reflecting your priorities? And here it's again, 50% of the audience believe that they feel that they have these issues prioritized in their business plans. And 50% of the audience believe that they have not these issues prioritized at all. So as a manager, Georg, I would like to ask you a question. It's a bit overwhelming, all these challenges in front of us. And you know, when you're running a business, you cannot have 20 priorities in front of you. You need 5, 6 good priorities, and you need to manage them well. So how do you organize yourself to understand what are the key priorities in these new challenges that you face today?
Thanks. I think when you're talking about priorities, and I mean, and that's the core of, in fact, of the book, of our learning as a company, what we have done over the last more than 30 years, it is driven by your customer, by your shopper, by your consumer, what their needs are, and this can be extremely different by industry and your competitive position, in fact. And here the key and what we really are taking as what we're emphasizing is convenience. And this can look extremely different. So for instance, if you look at banking, for instance, if you take that in Europe, so it's really closing down the offices. The fintechs are very successful, just naming N26 from Germany, that is really huge, really successful with young people. You have Monzo Bank and Revolut in the UK. But if you then go to other countries and other continents like South America, and I want to take the specific example here of Ripley Bank in Peru, what was important for them to be close and convenient to their customers was to work very closely with traditional outlets that are playing a very important role. So convenience and how you reach your consumers and shoppers can look very different from country, from industry. And you really need to understand that, because that will drive your priorities at the end. And here, I mean, we're talking about ethnographic understanding at the end. And a very good tool is, it's called job to be done. It's not a job you need to do, but a job to be done by your shopper and consumer, and then to understand his pain points. What is a hassle for him? What's difficult for him? How can you help him to solve it? And here you obviously also need to understand the environment, the digital environment, etc. But this is at the end the key point to develop what you say the priorities.
Okay, pretty clear. One question from the attendees, from the audience, which I feel is very interesting, actually, and specifically in the light of what happened, for example, in France last week, where Auchan, the big retailer, announced the slashing of 1,500 people and the creation of an e-commerce unit. And to me, it exactly is corresponding to the question that we have here. What does augmented proximity mean for retail? And how does it differ from e-commerce? Because adding one e-commerce is not really specifically augmented proximity, is it?
Well, I think you're starting to answer the question yourself almost. But I think, I mean, retail, with all the changes that are happening, that has been going on for 25 years, we should not forget that. It is not new. All this digitalization started 25 years ago. It has been accelerating. It's coming new digitalization. You have virtual reality. You start with AI, voice ordering, etc. And now with the COVID, it's really accelerating. And what we see is that when we talk about convenience, it is really not about online, offline. We see online players going offline, and with Whole Foods and Amazon, you see offline starting corporations like Marks and Spencer with Ocado. So convenience, the new convenience, how we buy, what makes our life simple, is in fact not about online or offline. And to specifically answer your question, without knowing all the details, what we have seen with many retailers is that there comes a point where they say we need to start working on e-commerce. This is more important. And what they normally do is to start treating e-commerce as a channel. So they are adding yet another channel, and they are trying to find an equilibrium between the investment between channels. And so it is sort of an inside out view, how I understand the market of different channels. So I have my different formats. I have the big box. I have the convenience channels. And then I have e-commerce becoming an additional channel. And I think the danger here, and this is really a challenge, is it is not, the shopper doesn't see it like channels, and they see it as what is convenient to me. What type of purchase do I need to do? What is my consumption occasion? What is my shopping mission? And then I will find the best solution for it. And this is also one of the reasons why you had a discussion a few years ago about channel blurring. So meaning the shoppers are not treating the channels they should do, but they're starting doing convenience shopping in big box. They're doing daily shopping in convenience channels, etc. So what is important is really to have a shopper view and being very careful, not just adding another department that is really not integrated in understanding the shopper. And this is, in fact, it's very difficult to do. I mean, you have all these new positions like omnichannel manager, etc. But you need to start trying to understand the profitability of your shopper, the sales, etc., across channels instead of focusing on channels.
Thank you, Georg. Now, one question, but that's I know that I received some messages from the audience, and also me. I'm very intrigued. It's about the sales force. You know, some of us have managed huge sales force, hundreds of people, and when you talk about dynamic modeling, sales force allocation depending on various variable issues like seasonality or whatever it can be. It is very difficult to conceive because the old say was you can only ask two things to a sales force to do that they can do well per year. So can you explain to me or to us, to all of us, what do you mean by this? I mean, what is exactly this dynamic sales force that you're talking about?
Yes, I will try at least. I think a good analogy here is the military. Why am I saying that? Because the military and how it is organized, in fact, has had a very big impact on how businesses are organizing. So strategy, etc., is learning a lot. And and exactly what you were saying with the sales force, they can do two things. I have a big sales force, and traditionally they have been organized by channels, by sub-channels, maybe by region. They've had a very clear task of selling into channels, and they've had efficiency KPIs, that are how many visits a day, sales per outlet, etc. And if we then look at the military, what has happened, and this really resembles the old big armies where you had a clear, let's say, enemy, clear frontiers, etc. And what has happened is that all this has changed. So you have a very fast changing environment, and this means that you need very capable soldiers and units that are able to adapt, that you can deploy dynamically, that are capable to do different tasks. And the same thing is in fact happening in our world today. And that means that you really need to work on engagement, trying to understand, well, where are the issues with my customers, with my competition, by region, seasonally, different activities, etc. And that means that to be able to really answer fast, you need to adapt to this. And now, when we have implemented this, and this is a new way of thinking, and this means that often you have a very important resistance in companies doing that. And what we've seen in projects we have done, where we've been able to sort of come over this hurdle and make people rethink and say, look, your sales force, they are educated people, they're able to do many things, they are capable, let's train them, let's develop them, let's put new KPIs. We have seen within the same budgets, we have seen quite extraordinary results of increase in sales, increase of engagement of clients and customers. And just to finish on this point, because you said you've been with Coca-Cola, big sales forces, this is not only true for FMCG sales forces. In fact, we've done this also in the insurance industry, really redefining the tasks and how to work with agent networks, etc. And overcoming the first hurdle and implementing it using digital support tools, the results have been, in fact, quite strong, very good.
Great. I'm going to ask you a last question, Georg, and then we will hand over to Philippe Boxberger. Once again, intriguing. The title of your presentation is "Winning in the New Shopper Environment or Ecosystem." So what does it mean? I mean, today I have flows in my sales force, I have flows in my organization, I have flows in my distribution system, and maybe I'm not prioritizing that well. So what does it mean for me to win in that new environment?
Yeah, good question. As a good academic, I would then ask you, what does it mean to win? And to be honest, I think that is the question. So what is success? It is now in this new environment, your success in a collaborative ecosystem environment, your success is dependent on the success of others. So if you want to win, you need to make everyone win. And so that means it's less confrontational in that sense. It really means, how do I build together with others solutions in the ecosystem, in the buying environment of my shoppers and consumers. And in this environment, and we stressed the point before, this accelerating change, there's a small irony to it, in the sense that what we see as things are changing faster and faster, that there is a help to go back in time and look at tools that were used before. For instance, in the Cold War, the military, come back to the military, which was used for businesses, developed the VUCA concept, which is in short is about in volatile, uncertain situations, which are complex, you don't know in what direction it goes, and full of ambiguity. You need to develop sensory management to be able to manage that. Or during the oil crisis, when Shell developed their scenario planning, which is very helpful. And one I really like, and we try to implement, is robust planning. And robust planning means I will plan very detailed, very clear what I know. And then I will be flexible. Today you would say agile and open, almost with scenarios for what will come after that. And that is sort of a robust planning steps. So yeah, that will be my answer, Philip.
Wow. I'm not sure how you feel attendees out there, but I feel overwhelmed here. It's impressive what we have been able to cover in less than 1 hour. So many relevant topics, and I think there could be the discussion going on and on with plenty of questions here. But we definitely want to make sure that we can keep the time and that you can run or go to your next meeting or log into your next online virtual conference. So nevertheless, if you or we have missed anything, don't worry. We will be sending around a recorded version of this webinar within the next days, including our contact details. And we would love to hear back from you. Georg, Philip, I, as well as the rest of the Globalpraxis team, are very happy to answer any specific questions you might have. To organize or run a tailored webinar, or maybe in the future even a workshop for your company on that specific topics, or just in general support you and your company in that transition process in order to win in this new shopper ecosystem. Thanks again for the time you spent with us. We really appreciate it. I hope you have enjoyed and profited from this webinar at the same time. Bye for now.